A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. We're broadcasting from the Central Building, which is the home of this radio station, live on our website, www.radio1fm90.com. On that website, you click on the icon with the word Listen Live. Now, you can find this radio station on the different radio listening apps. Now, those you can obtain from the apps of your smartphone. You download, look for Radio 1 FM 90, and as long as you have an internet connection, you'll be able to listen to us from anywhere across this globe. We do encourage you to be part of this discussion by sharing with us your thoughts via the WhatsApp line 0703-090-090. It could be a comment or a question, and the guests on the show this evening will be responding to some of the issues that you put across. Now, the government took a decision on the 10th of March to implement what they called the trade order. And guidelines were issued to all local governments to facilitate them to restore what they called orderly business environment by relocating traders into formal and designated trading spaces, especially traders who are operating on streets, walkways, pavements, verandas, back streets, corridors, and sanitary lanes. We're also supposed to remove all campaign posters displayed in their areas, ensure proper food handling, clean marketplaces, ensure law enforcement by ensuring maintenance of law and order, and that all trade must be licensed and regulated by the relevant authorities. They were also supposed to ensure that all development permission requests are approved by local governments as prescribed in the Building Control Act. They were supposed to streamline public transport operations and also develop and implement trade order strategies for local government. So the campaign started, and we have all been seeing the demolitions that have occurred in different parts of this country, especially in urban areas. We heard from Parliament last week that the exercise had been suspended. An explanation came from Minister David Bahati, who said they had decided to suspend the implementation of the trade order, and in some places people returned back to the streets because that's where they were, working and getting. But during a sitting of cabinet this week on Monday, a decision was taken that implementation of the trade order should continue as earlier planned. And this decision was communicated yesterday to the country by two ministers, the minister in charge of local government, the Honorable Raphael Majezi, and the minister in charge of Kampala Capital City and Metropolitan Affairs, who is also the Kampala Central MP-elect, the Honorable Minsa Kabanda, who said that henceforth the operations will continue, but they will be working closely with other local government authorities to ensure that there are spaces for the traders to work in. So today we'll be looking at this issue of enforcement of the trade order to try and understand, is there a best way we can do it? Supposed to have two guests on this show, and one of them is already here. Let me introduce her, Miss Jane Nalunga. She's Executive Director, Siatini, Uganda. She's a business and trade expert. Good evening, Miss Jane Nalunga. Thank you so much for coming to Spectrum today.
Thank you so much, Kenneth, for having me here, and good evening, our listeners.
Right, we expect to be joined by the Honorable Hajjat Minsa Kabanda, like I've already introduced her. She's the Minister in charge of Kampala Capital City and Metropolitan Affairs, MP-elect Kampala Central. She did confirm her participation in this program, and we expect her to join us shortly. Ms. Jane Nalunga, let's begin this discussion first of all by looking at, generally speaking, the issues of trade order in our country. You know the explanation, you've followed what has been going on. What is your take, the manner in which this issue has been handled, and the implications generally as somebody who follows trade matters in this country?
Okay, thank you so much, Kenneth, and good evening once again, our listeners. I have been following the whole issue of the trade order. It has a number of benefits because it's talking about an orderly business environment. Talking about, like now, this statement, ensuring proper food handling, generally having an orderly and regulated city. And everybody would really want to be in a clean, orderly and regulated city. So in that respect, I think that order is in order. However, I think we need to look at a number of realities. One is the manner in which this trade order is being implemented. And maybe when you look at the fact that the order was at first stopped and now they are saying they are going to go ahead. Maybe what the press release doesn't say, why it was stopped in the first place and now why they are doing it again.
There was an explanation given that there were some stakeholders who were engaged and following the concerns that were being raised by different people. Some of these stakeholders included pastors from the born-again faith and some traders who were part of that meeting, and they requested that the government should suspend the implementation until a thorough consultation. But then Cabinet, in a few days, not even after a week or so, just 2 days, because the suspension was communicated in Parliament on Wednesday, and then yesterday we saw a reversal of that suspension.
Yeah, so it means that the consultations haven't really been done, and for me, I think that's really unfortunate, because the trade order needs to be owned. Let people participate, let people give their views. And I also think evacuating the city, it shouldn't be done, at a go. Let us have measures which are in the immediate term, mid-term, and long-term. Because when you look at what's happening in our cities, these are symptoms of lack of jobs. Nobody wants to start vending there, but because there are no jobs. So let us look at the problem. Why are people vending? Why are there so many border? Why is the city overrun by rural immigrants? They are immigrants because they come to the city without jobs, without anything. So let us look at that. So let us look at the entire picture, because even if you send them away today, tomorrow they are going to come back, because they have nowhere to go. Because some people are saying it's easier to be poor and jobless in Kampala than being jobless in the rural areas. So let us look at a holistic picture. And also, I think when we are implementing the trade order, there are a number of, I was reading this press release. There are things which are commendable about community sensitization. People need to know. They need to be sensitized. But for me, I think before they are sensitized, and also it talks about which we work with the representatives such as churches and vendors for proper implementation of the trade order. Before the trade order was implemented, we should have discussed it. Let the people discuss that order. And that's what we call good governance. That's what we call ownership. Because there are many challenges, even when it comes to relocation to other markets, other formal markets. It's commendable that they are looking around where to put these vendors. But we need to remember that there is a challenge with the markets, because most of the markets which will have been constructed, the formal markets, they are empty. Why? Because of the location, the weather structure, And I think this is where government also went wrong when they were constructing these markets. They continued constructing markets even when they were empty. You go to all these, whether in Guru, whether in Lila, wherever the markets are empty, people are back on the street. Government should have wondered why, because everybody wants to operate in a good environment. So to tell these hawkers that please go to those markets, there is a problem. They won't go there because already those markets have a problem. And for me, I think government should consult more around these issues.
All right. In your submission earlier, you talked about a phased manner in which they should have handled this issue. Let's take an example of Kampala. How would you have handled it, looking at the setup and how people have been actually trading, even on the streets?
And that's okay. One, what would have happened is to give the vendors some time. Sometime like 6 months, and to tell them that, and to sensitize, this is what we are going to do. We are going to evacuate all of you. 6 months. Please look for ways where you are going to go. Then two, I think we need to learn. We need to learn from other cities how they have handled street vending and hawkers. Because it's not just, this challenge is not in Uganda alone. So we need to learn how have other countries handled it. Recently, end of last year, I was in Penang. Penang is in Malaysia. They also have problems of food vending and street vending and all that. But what they have done is to create spaces where people are allocated, places where to go. But those places have to be accessible. Because you see, we need to understand the characteristics of street vending. Even these women who put carrots and vegetables, like now you are going to the taxi park. Those people need to be where the traffic is, where people are leaving office and going back.
So that they can sell.
So we need to devise different means of ensuring that we maintain that livelihood. Government can be able to say William Street from 5 to 7, let it be those vendors. And they will tell them, be clean, after working, after 7, clean up, leave the street. Clean.
The way you found it.
The way you found it. And we have seen a number of cities doing that. From 5 to 7, people who are going to the park, going to wherever, they buy and go. Because you see, even us, our characters, Ugandans, even people whom you think are middle class, Kenneth, like me, you don't buy things in bulk and you put them in the fridge. No, you buy when you are going back home, and you do impulse buying. You remember, I think I will need those sweet potatoes. Okay, maybe even the onions. That's who we are. So whatever model we get, it has to work for us. But at the end of the day, it's important to balance people's livelihoods and a clean city. Those two, and for me, I believe we can be able to achieve those two objectives: a clean, organized city, and also maintaining people's livelihoods.
All right. You also talked about the issues of markets. And when you look at this statement, they're actually talking about working out solutions to ensure that the people who have not yet found space in the former markets or in the designated areas are reassigned to the new places to work. When you look at Kampala, like you said, there are different markets that have been put up. Busega, in Natete. We have one in Wandegea. and there's another one at Usafi, and a number of other places where markets are, but people are not going there. What would you advise in that regard? How can we get them to that side?
I think the issue is not to push them to that side, because there are already people who are there. You know, there's also this misconception that street vendors are competing with the formal traders
who are in the shops and in the markets.
And they're also competing with those ones in the market. But the two are really different. And in fact, the two models of trading complement each other. These ones who are on the street are there at a certain time. In fact, somebody was telling me, when you look at Usafi market, people are saying you need to situate a market where it's located when people are going back home, because that's when they have the money and the things have to go home, because they need food, they need vegetables. So when you look at vendors are in their own category. In fact, some of the vendors buy from the formal markets and bring them on the street, because at the street it's at a certain time from 5 onwards. The morning you don't see them, and that's why I'm saying we can be able to ensure that these people are allocated a certain place and a certain time. In fact, I want to commend government also in their statement. They're encouraging local governments to establish weekly markets in convenient places. It might not be a weekly. It can be daily, given a certain time, given certain conditions. But, like I have said, that can be the immediate measure, immediate to mid-term. But in the long term, we need to look at how we organize our cities. Because for me, what surprises me, people start building. We can go to those people who build kiosks. They build kiosks. And the local government officials are there looking. Somebody builds a very nice one, because it isn't built in one day or in a week. Nobody is touched. Those people are given a license to operate. Then the following day they come and break up those kiosks. Then you wonder what's really happening. So urban planning, I think we need to put some more effort in urban planning and enforce it, so that people don't lose out. But if there is laxity, people are building, one person builds, another one builds there, the other one builds there, they are given a license, then it's unfair the following day to come and break up those kiosks.
You seem to agree with the outcry, because there have been so many people who have been crying out and saying, I've lost my livelihood, I took a loan to start up this business, and we are here. There are some people actually saying there should be compensation. Would you agree with those who are saying some of these people deserve to be compensated?
It would depend on the law. I'm not a lawyer. It would depend on the law, because I think government is acting under the Trade Licensing Act. The law is clear. So maybe we need to consult some lawyers, that if you allow somebody to set up a kiosk, somebody is given a license, then you break up that business, who is liable? So we need to find that one out. But I agree when it comes to the outcry, because like I said in the beginning, we need to understand our context. That our economy is growing. It's growing. Our GDP has gone up. In fact, according to some literature, they say Uganda is one of the fastest growing
countries in sub-Saharan
Africa. Which is true, but it's jobless growth. The jobs are not there. People don't have jobs. And that's why I was saying, when you chase away the vendors, you are addressing the symptoms of a jobless growth.
There's always an outcry also about crime going up.
Yeah, crime is also because people are poor, and that's why even crime by the young people, they have no jobs. It's because of the kind of economy we are running, the kind of growth. We need to go back on the drawing board and look at how we can be able to create jobs for our young people. I will give you an example, and that's why I was saying, looking at this problem, we need to look at it in phases. The medium to long term is to address the issue of creating jobs. We need an economic growth that creates jobs for the people. I have seen, again, we need to learn from different countries what they are doing. For example, take an example of our industrial policy, industrialization. Government has come up with industrial parks, which is commendable. There's an industrial park in Mbale, I think also in Mbalala, different places. But we need to make sure that these industrial parks have backward linkages and that they are creating jobs. Because our industrial parks sometimes they are repackaging centers without any linkages to agriculture. I'll give you an example. Way back in the early 80s, there was a factory, a cassava in Lira. It used to do starch and I think isano, but they were getting cassava from the area around.
From the farmers?
From the farmers. So that means farmers had a market. The young people who were working had jobs in that industry. So we are looking at creating jobs. That means those people there wouldn't come to Kampala if they are jobs there. So in the medium to long term, we need to look at how we address the underlying causes of unemployment. All
right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We're going to go for a quick break. When we return, we'll continue looking at what this means for the trade subsector in our country, because we have been talking about bettering our trade for quite some time to take advantage of the regional markets. There are also international markets. There are issues to do with the standards. There's so many other issues. And good enough, I have an expert in this particular area, who is Ms. Jane Nalunga, the Executive Director, Siatini, Uganda, who happens to be a business and trade expert. We expect to be joined by the Honorable Hajjat Minsa Kabanda. Minsa in charge of Kampala, Capital City and Metropolitan Affairs, MP-elect Kampala Central. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90, but keep your comments coming by the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum Live on Radio 1 FM 90. We are looking at the enforcement of the trade order. In the course of last week, the government had announced suspension of the enforcement, but yesterday we were actually told that a cabinet had decided that the enforcement must go ahead. And there are reasons why the government wants the trade order enforcement to take place. They want to clean up the streets. They want to ensure there's orderly in business, and that includes relocating traders to informal designated trading places. They want to remove all campaign posters displayed in the local government since elections ended. They want to ensure proper food handling to stop cooking and selling of food, including fruits on top of sewer lanes and drainages. They want clean marketplaces. They also want to see, people being licensed to carry out trade. Madam Jane Nalunga, there's a feeling out there that vending is illegal. That's what some people actually think. But I have heard from some experts who have actually said that even our current law allows issuance of a license to hawkers. I don't know under what circumstances that would happen, if you have any of that kind of knowledge. What I understand, that according to, let me see, just hold on.
according to the Trade Licensing Act in 1969, section 16, section 16, it talks about the hawker's license. The hawker's license covers persons who sell goods by retail other than in trading premises or in a market. However, section 16(5) lists categories of hawkers who don't require license, including sellers of fish, vegetables, eggs, fruits, and firewood. So I was also looking at this. I was saying, if the hawkers, they are supposed to be given a license, then they are recognized as hawkers. Maybe we have missed out, maybe
the Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, when she comes, she can be able to explain this. But they are, it's not criminalized, it's not illegal, because if you give somebody a license, then you are legally recognizing that person. So, but also, 16(3), it says the licensing authority may impose rules regarding the kind of goods hawked, the areas of hawking, and hours of operation. You know,
going back to the argument you were making.
So then, if they are recognized, then let them come out that these are the goods which you are supposed to vend, and this is the place, and also these are the hours in a certain given place. So for me, I think we shouldn't criminalize vendors and hawkers. You know, we shouldn't. But for me, this one is also, being in the law, we need to understand deeper what this means.
All right. Now, let's continue looking at the implications to our trade subsector. But even before we do that, I want us to look at the issue of market development. Who has the right to set up a market? Because I've heard from some private individuals, people who have their land in some of these urban areas, saying that they have been blocked from, starting up markets as an avenue, as a business. You know, somebody maybe has a piece of land, and they think they can put there the necessary facilities, shelters, and things like that, and people can actually go and rent and carry out their business. You were telling me during the course of the break that that could be one of the lessons that we can get from what Malaysia did.
Yeah, Malaysia in Penang. And I think what you are asking, the local governments have a right to do that. I think it's in their powers to be able to designate, and maybe also to discuss with owners of the land to see how we can be able to get spaces to work as markets. And for me, I think that can be done. But what I have seen in Penang, government, I don't know whether it was government land or they leased the land from individuals, but governments have indicated land. They have spaces where they indicate that piece of land, that space, is for people who are cooking food, maybe roasting chicken, maybe selling vegetables.
Some sort of zoning. And you find it's really, really well organized. And maybe another example which I can give, for those of you who have gone to Bangkok, to Bangkok in Thailand. Bangkok is one of those cities which are really overpopulated, but it's also in that overpopulation, it's very well organized when it comes to food. So they have integrated street vending, street food, even within their tourism. You go to Bangkok, and if you haven't eaten street food, then you are not a tourist. So they have integrated their
their street food, their street vending as part of their tourism and as part of their urban development. So like I said before, we need to look at models. Each country has its own challenges, and whatever law we put in place must be addressing a certain problem. So we need to go back and say, what's our problem as Uganda? So if we chase away these vendors on the street, what problem are we addressing? Is it the symptom or is it an underlying problem? And there are so many examples, because each city in Africa, in developing countries, have addressed that challenge differently. We can talk about our neighbors here across the border.
Indeed. The closer the better.
The cleanest city. You know the city I'm talking about.
I have no idea.
Kigali.
Okay.
Kigali, the cleanest city. Kigali, what they have done, they have cleaned up their city. But it has attracted investors and, in fact, and tourism. Everybody say, oh, Kigali, you know, it's a nice city. But they have also relocated their vulnerabilities somewhere else. They haven't eradicated it. They have shifted it somewhere else. So what I'm saying, for Uganda, we need to learn. Let us have a plan in mind that this is the model we want to use. When we shift these people from here, this is what we are addressing. We are taking them there. Is it a viable alternative or not? We have talked about the issue of viability of these structures. The structures are good, but they are not working for the people. So what should be the solution? You know, so we need to look at this issue broadly, not just a clean city. In fact, there is a lady. She's a very well-known urban planner called Vanessa Watson. Her comment was that, you know, that our master plans in Africa, in fact, she called them African urban fantasies. That we want to build all these fantasies, a clean city, clean roads, without looking at the daily realities of the people, you know. And that's why I was saying the issue of balancing a clean city and livelihoods. For me, that should be the work of government and our leaders.
All right. Now let's turn a page and look at issues of trade. Trade as a sector itself, very critical in contributing to the development of our country. We have so many opportunities as a country, looking at the markets that are around us, but also the African market that is opening up. We also have international markets where we're supposed to take goods and services. As a country, when you look at the journey we have gone through and the trajectory, are we doing enough to take advantage of the opportunities that are available to us in terms of trade?
Okay, thank you, Kenneth. There are so many opportunities, trade opportunities. Like I said, if we are to address this issue, we need to look at our economy. We need to strengthen our economy. We need to trade so that we need to ensure that people have jobs. So the opportunities are there, right from the domestic market, which you didn't mention. Sometimes we forget the opportunities within the domestic market, and we leave our domestic
we are
market
for better money.
No,
the aspirations are to go that side.
No, we start from here. Now, just, you know, when we have given away our domestic market, yet we have also failed to get that regional and global market. You start from home, because for me the biggest challenge,
issues of sovereignty,
not sovereignty really. No, let us leave the sovereignty issue there on the side. Let us talk economics now and trade. We start from the domestic market, let us make sure that we are utilizing our domestic market. I will just give you an example of coffee. We produce coffee. We send raw coffee, and we drink Nescafe. How many jobs are we sending away? We buy Nescafe. You go to these ministries, the more lucrative the ministry, the bigger the Nescafe tins, okay? So what I'm saying, we have the domestic market, we have the regional market. The East African market is growing. We are now about how many countries? 8 countries. We have the continental free trade area. But what is important is that we need to produce. We take goods to those markets, but sometimes we don't have those goods in terms of quality, in terms of quantity. And these are issues which we need to look at to ensure that our economy is growing, And again, going back to the domestic market and value addition and the way we are looking at our industrialization, I want to go back to crepes. I have talked about crepes in Masaka a number of times. Imagine if we had a crepes in Masaka, another crepes in Arua, another crepes somewhere, and we are adding value to our fruits, to our pineapples, to our mangoes, and we are bottling and we are drinking that. How many jobs would we be creating? So that's the rethink which we need to do. And that's why I was saying, when we look at the challenges facing us in the urban areas, with so many young people coming in the urban areas, we need to address the issue of jobless growth. We need to orient our growth to ensure that it creates jobs.
All right. We're going to go to the comments that are coming in from their listener to understand what their thoughts are about the enforcement of the trade order. Number of comments coming in via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Good evening. Good evening. An organized city versus an employed and productive society, increased crime rate and loss of revenue to government. That's a comment that comes in from a listener there. Anderson, thank you for the topical program. How can these vendors be planned into major developments in the cities and towns? In Thailand and any shopping mall or center, if a structure has many levels, 1 or 2 levels will be dedicated to such groups as food vendors or other categories in the class. Interestingly, the semi-illiterate mayor, Rip Haji Sebagala, alluded to it when big supermarkets were just coming into the city. That's a comment from Pat. AF writes in and says the reason partly why markets are empty is because vendors are on the streets. If they get to establish market, we buyers will have to move to those markets. Street vending may have heavily contributed to increasing mugging and pickpocketing. We must have a starting point, and this is it. If government backtracks, trade order won't be restored. Then we have another comment here. Whereas the trade order, especially in CBDs, in cities and municipalities, is a welcome move, the manner it is handled, especially without sensitising the stakeholders, was a gross mistake. The government should have put in place alternative areas or markets to locate them before demolishing their makeshift shops. As a result of the above, so many people have lost their livelihoods, promoting insecurity and immoral behaviors like prostitution among vulnerable children and mothers for survival. Stopping the execution at this point in time will be seen as selective application of trade order execution, and the people earlier affected will come back on the streets, feeling government betrayal, so it should continue to the end. The government should be in position to know the effects of population explosion, breeding unemployment, is getting high level of crime. In my opinion, they should have done the exercise in a phased manner without destruction of their merchandise procured through loans. That's a comment from Kamugo Freight Keta, listening in from Chira municipality. Abima Jimmy from Mokono writes in and says, good evening, Anderson, thanks for the show. I don't understand what this government is up to. If I may ask, what plan does our government have for people whose kiosks have been demolished? Yet these people have families that depend on them. Maybe they want to increase the crime rate in the country. In fact, we shouldn't be shocked if rate of robbery and killings goes up. Lastly, we are claiming to be free economy. Why are we squeezing others? Let all the urban planners in Uganda resign. They are doing no work. That's Abima there with that particular comment. Good evening, Kenneth and the guests, but my question goes to the minister. Unfortunately, the minister has not made it. The way you are treating people is not good. The speed is so high. Please reduce the speed. That's Grace Kabanda with that particular comment. Hi Radio One, the planet says a jobless economy is causing crime among young people. To me, it's crime that causes crime. The former being corruption by the older generation and the latter being crime committed by the young. In Uganda, any transaction, whether delivering a public good or service by the government, even when the private sector is involved, still does not guarantee full delivery of value. Instead of focusing on the young, we should focus on ourselves, the old. We need the revolution, especially against corruption, and we must improve professionalism, thereby growing our efficiency in how we use resources and labor. It will lead to economic growth and consequently jobs and a good life. Uganda could change in a very short time. Scattered nice words of wisdom will not help this country. That's a comment from Turi Agenda. Well, Madam Jen Nalunga, that's the feedback that we're getting in from the listeners.
Okay.
There's one more that's just come in. Good evening, Anderson. Let our government stop imitating other countries to disturb us, because they will not implement what Rwanda and others implemented to achieve what those countries achieved. We are only good at corruption. Let's leave clean cities to others. Then we have another comment here. The problems in Uganda are solvable, but the government is just fooling Ugandans by putting a lot of force on doing things that don't benefit us, Uganda. Instead of working on bad roads all over Uganda, it's putting all forces on street vendors who are even Ugandans. Then we have another comment. Thanks for the program. I salute the guests. Besides Thailand, even Dubai, Deira city has food all over the place. Jerusalem, same thing. Even some European cities, and you find people have livelihoods, but for us it's violent crackdown. Why don't we plan for our people than criminalizing them? Just create order and let security also up their game. We are a firefighting state. That's a comment from Emmanuel. The kiosks they demolish are the very people who purchase from the factories of the bourgeois. Where is government going to get the taxes? That's Sharif with that comment. Tum Mabal writes in and says agro-industrialization should address more of the agricultural issues in rural areas to reduce rural-urban migration. Everyone is not involved in vending because agriculture is not attractive. Everyone is not involved in vending because agriculture is not attractive. Not everyone should be in the business of trade. Those are the comments that we have, Madam Jane Nalunga.
Thank you so much for those comments. Very, very important comments, and that shows that people are listening and people are interested in this issue. I won't respond to all of them. I will just respond to a few, just add my voice to a number of them. There is a listener who said that we shouldn't imitate other countries, but I think it's important to learn what's going on, because when you learn, you can be able to pick lessons which are appropriate to you. So we are not saying that we are going to cut and paste from other countries. What we are saying that let us learn. We are not alone in this situation. Let us learn from other countries and pick those lessons. The issue which has been raised by Mr. Tulia Agenda is really, really important. Issues around professionalism, the prudent use of our resources, planning. I think that's the long term which we need to address. Because if we don't address that, given the population explosion, the cities are going to continue being flooded. So we need to look at those long-term plans, not just for today or tomorrow. We need to look at long-term. A number of people have criminalized vendors, pickpocketing, mugging, and all that. But at the end of the day, what I said is that we can be able to balance a clean, regulated city, but also protect people's livelihoods. And I have given a number of examples. Maybe one example which I didn't point out is in India, in Mumbai and New Delhi. The vendors have associations, very good, strong associations, and every time they meet with the local governments to discuss issues of cleanliness, issues of time and places where to work, because when we criminalize vendors, then they can't form associations. So let us stop the criminalization, let them form associations. So let us modernize vending like other countries have done. And for me, I believe we can be able to address all these criminal activities of pickpocketing. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to address issues of vulnerability of our people. Most people, we talked to a number of people, those people whose kiosks were demolished. Most of them were saying they borrowed money. They are the single earner, family earner, So it's really bad, So we need to balance. People need to live. People need to have a living, to earn a living. So we need to balance the good and regulated city with livelihoods.
All right. We're moving towards the end of this discussion, Madam Jane Nalunga. I would like you to give your closing remarks and your comment on this issue, probably a piece of advice to government and even the local governments that are facing the wrath of people who are reacting to how this trade order is being implemented. I think to government and the local governments, I think it's important to have dialogue with the vendors. Dialogue is really important. People need to be consulted, and that's what we mean by good governance. Let people be consulted. Another issue is sensitization. Let people be sensitized. Let people be told that, this is what's happening, but also their rights. Not so many people know about the Local Government Act. In fact, even for us in Siatini, we're just looking at the Kampala Capital Cities Authority Act. What does it say? What does the hawkers license say? So we don't know. So let people be sensitized so that people know their rights, people know what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. Another issue which is really important is the urban planning. Let us not be firefighting. Let local governments be proactive. Let us have plans and let those plans be implemented. But you see people building, you keep quiet. They pay money. Then 2 days down the road, you are breaking that building. That is not planning. So let us be proactive. Let our government be proactive. All right.
Let people be sensitized. Let people be consulted.
All right. With that, we come to the end of Spectrum. Thank you so much, Madam Jane Nalunga, for sparing time to be here. We missed hearing from the Honorable Minister, Hajjat Minsa Kabanda. We hope maybe in the near future we'll get somebody from the government to come here and explain clearly how they're handling these issues. Thank you very much, dear listener, for tuning in and contributing to this discussion. Up next, we have the news in English with Miss Josephine Dagano. Thereafter, the Soul Train with Baby Junior.